So, welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Mark McNulty, president of Action Coach Bluegrass. And today I have Tyler Deeb, who is the owner of the Miscellaneous Goods Company, as my guest. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you.
So, today we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, and some of the challenges, best practices, and just share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business these days. Now, if this is your first time on our channel, be sure to subscribe and like so you get notifications when future interviews get published. So, Tyler, welcome and thanks for being here today. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Yeah, of course, of course.
So, tell us a little bit about Miscellaneous Goods Company and how this all came about and how you became an entrepreneur business owner.
Yeah, I think the goal was never to be an entrepreneur or business owner, although I think, as with most people that find themselves in those positions, from an early age, you like autonomy, you like having your own space, you like following your own vision. I definitely had that at a young age, but getting here was really just great luck and fortune. I was a freelance graphic designer, which is a form of entrepreneurship in itself. It's not really a business in the same sense, but you know, I was running into a lot of delays in work, and a lot of contracts weren't coming in, and so I had a lot of free time, and I began designing a deck of playing cards, and I launched those cards on Kickstarter, had instant success, raised $146,000 in 30 days. And that was, you know, 3 times what I was making a year, previously. And so, obviously, as you know, that wasn't all profit, but it still was 3 times as much as I was used to seeing up to that point. And yeah, I just realized, I think the theme that I realized then was that this is not something that happens very often, and that I should really pursue whatever is next with it. And so it's just been like a slow progression of learning more about um, what the business can do and handle.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So, tell us about what are the different roles you're currently playing in the business, right?
Uh, a lot of roles. The way that I've really actually gone through a lot of reflection over the last 6 to 8 months, and realized that my primary role right now, the role that the company needs me to be most of all, is a CEO, which is very different than being an entrepreneur, and also very different than being a creative. It's extremely different from being a creative. The creative cares about um, creation, finding, making, ideas. That's what a creative really likes, and that's what really drew me into this business in the first place. And then, I turned into an entrepreneur, which is someone who builds, is constantly trying to build and build and build and grow. And now it's about managing and um, making hard decisions, and uh, being critical of myself, the process. So right now, primarily I'm a CEO, but I still have to do all of those other things as well. I have to design, and I have to promote, and I have to do marketing, and I have to touch every part of the business at different times. But fortunately, I also have a really great team of people that are really autonomous, and handle a lot of those a lot of those responsibilities. Yeah.
Right. So you started with the deck of cards and you've expanded into other areas. So what are some of the other products now? So, the name miscellaneous goods is kind of describes. So,
Yeah.
tell listeners a little bit more about that name and, kind of where you're at with your product lines today.
Yeah, the name was good fortune as well. I had just finished the deck of cards, and I realized that I didn't have a name for my company. I didn't have a name for the deck, and so I had always loved how miscellaneous looked abbreviated, and I had no. Um, I like how it's kind of like playful and nonchalant, but I had no vision of like creating lots of different products. It just was an interesting sound to me, miscellaneous. But I ended up doing that. And so we went into leather, we went into ceramics, we've gone into concrete, we've gone into glass and printmaking and so many different areas. And going back to what I just said about the process of going from a creative to an entrepreneur to a CEO, is that there is this point of when you're a CEO where you realize, okay, like you can't keep creating. You have to start actually assessing like what works and what makes a lot of business sense. And right now, our primary focus is on our fragrance line because that makes the most business sense. And it's a really fun space to be in. But to give some more clarity, you know, I've learned for a business of my size, the thing I'm fighting for, one, you know, profitability is like the thing we're all fighting for, is to be profitable. And you're fighting for getting your average order value up and getting your retention up and getting your returning so that your returning customer base. Those are the areas that we're trying to win a lot right now. And a fragrance line is great for that because if you create a great product, which we have, and you can win that customer the first time, your probability of winning that customer, getting that customer to come back a second time is much higher because the thing that they love of yours is a consumable. So when they run out of their cologne or their deodorant, they need to return to you to get it. Whereas with playing cards or leather goods, you know, our people walk up to me all the time and show me their leather wallet. And I've had this for 10 years. I love it. Well, that's a $70 purchase that they made 10 years ago. And that's wonderful. Like we want our products to, especially our leather goods, like we design them to last. They're supposed to last. So that's a good thing. But from like creating a sustainable business, it's a little bit concerning that that a customer's lifetime value over 10 years might only be $70. Like we need, you know, to convince our customers to shop with us more than that. And our fragrance line allows us to do that. Our incense is also a really great category for us. It's something that really elevates people's rooms and spaces, but then it's something they come back to us for, and sometimes even on like a subscription basis.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's your target market? Who's buying from you? You're in a space, you know, you're selling things that, you know, deodorant, you know, I can go to Kroger and get generic deodorant. So what is it about your, you know, who are you targeting and what is it that you are tapping into in your customer base?
Yeah, so we've never really attacked the market with a goal of trying to reach a certain customer. We've tried to develop products that we genuinely like, and we kind of consider ourselves people that have a critical point of view and perspective that um, is thoughtful and critical of itself in the market. So we just know that we can come to having ideas that are good. And what we found is that our products do really, really well in larger cities, people from the age of 25 to 45. Um, and even though we are more of a boutique price thing, our customers aren't necessarily extremely wealthy. You know, they're I think that the average household income is between like 85 and 95,000. So, but in bigger cities, Brooklyn, obviously Manhattan, or Chicago, Los Angeles, we do really well in Texas. So Houston and Austin and Dallas are big cities for us. So that's what we've learned. They're city dwellers, they're people that are looking for things that are well made, thoughtful, unique, and that's how we separate ourselves from what you might find at a larger store. Yeah.
So what makes you different from the other offerings that they see? What is it that
Yeah.
makes you stand out for them?
Well, so for fragrance, you know, that's pretty simple answer. It's just the smells, right? So they just smell different. And how do they smell different? Well, we use the best natural fragrant oils in the world, and we make really complex formulations, meaning we use 12 to 15 different oils to build a blend, opposed to just 2 or 3. We work with the best manufacturers. So what we end up getting is just these really complex, really thoughtful, really interesting smells. And then we combine that with good design, so good creative, and then yeah, good build. So like the sprays work well. It's just creating a product that works well, looks good, feels good, is unique, stands out. So that's one of our core missions is to not imitate. Like we don't want to go into the market, find out what's working for other people and imitate it. We want to figure out what it is that's not out there and create our own. And sometimes there are parallels, of course, but it's impossible to do anything that's totally new or totally unique, but we want to definitely come to it with a new perspective.
Okay. Awesome. So, if you looking at your journey from, where you started to where you are today, what are some milestones or inflection points or pivot points that, where you had to, where you hit an obstacle and you had to learn something and you had a growth, another growth, whether personally or business, or often those two go hand in hand, right? So what are a couple obstacles that you ran into that made you move in a different direction to grow in a different way than maybe you had originally intended?
That's a great question. It's a hard question to answer because, and I don't mean this to be silly, but it's a constant learning. And that's one of the attractive things about being in business for yourself is that you really do have to be sharp, and you have to continually sharpen yourself, and your team has to be sharp, and they constantly have to sharpen themselves. And so that's the appealing thing because it makes work hard, but it also makes it really satisfying and tons of growth. So I would say that you're on a constant path of growth when you're running a business, because the business every day is going to be asking something different of you to do. But to simplify it, I think going back to the illustration that I shared earlier, which is going from like a creative to an entrepreneur to a CEO, those are the inflection points that I really felt, which is, hey, like you have good ideas, and now you got to kind of build a system around them, which makes them sellable. So that's one. And then your things are selling. Now you have to create a system around them that makes them profitable and sustainable. Because this last year we've gone in and out of profitability, and we're doing really well. I mean, it's amazing how well you can be doing and how much money you can be spending while running a business at the same time. It's just really, really shocking, so a recent inflection point is just having a good understanding of what a good total profit at the end of the year is, and make that a goal of the business. And what is a good gross profit margin for each product? And where can we be more slim on how we spend money, and where can we be? So that's where I am right now. That's the most fresh, is really trying to build a profitable business that makes sense on paper, because I've really built a great business that makes sense as an idea, right? It just really, it looks good, it feels good, it has great reviews, has great products, it kind of does that. But when you put it on paper, it's like, yeah, your revenue is really good, but like, this is a little tight, or that's a little loose, or whatever. Getting it on paper and saying, no, it looks good out here, and it looks good right here. And yeah, so that's the inflection point I'm in now.
Okay. So what were some of the challenges you had to overcome just in your own head to go from creative to business owner? Because a lot of people start businesses by accident.
Yeah.
Doing something that's their passion, right? That they love to, whether it's a trade
Yeah.
or art, you know. So you know, what's the mental transition that you had to go through?
Um, you have to be really vulnerable. Um, I think you have to have people that you can trust, that you can share with, kind of process it with. Um, the most recent, since it's fresh, the most recent transition, I've made from an entrepreneur to a CEO was really painful. I had to let two team members go to save on cost and absorb their workload. Um, I had to really change how we were, some of the products that we were bringing in and the processes in which we were bringing them in. Um, and it was, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. So I think, how do you do it? I mean, my dad says this, which I think is just such a simple and great illustration, but, how do you eat a whale, one bite at a time? And, um, and you just get a little bit better each day. And so I think that the main ingredient to having success in that, or getting through it, is endurance. I think you have to have just an incredible amount of resiliency and endurance. And just when you get punched in the face because of this or that, because you made a $10,000 mistake or $100,000 mistake, which is insane. Like, how are you going to respond to it? But that doesn't mean you always hold on either. I mean, there's definitely times where you let go and you can wave the white flag, and that you gotta know when to do that. But I think having a certain amount of resiliency and um, yeah, endurance, that's the key to getting better.
Okay. So fast forward 3 to 5 years, you know, what do you see for the business out in the future that you can share with our listeners?
I can tell you what my goals are, definitely. So we will likely break 1 million in total revenue this year. Um, I'd like that in 3 to 5 years. I'd like that to be 3 to 5. Um, and I think the best way to do that is to grow our e-commerce, which is actually pretty light. It's not a big part of our business. The biggest part of our business is wholesale, which is great. So in order to get to those goals, we'll have to grow both of them, wholesale and e-commerce. But e-commerce has the most opportunity. So my goal is to find, strategic partners to help us grow e-commerce, because talking about what do you learn, one of the things you learn is your weaknesses, and how can you, and how, when are you getting in the way of the business growth opposed to it helping it. And me managing kind of like e-commerce growth is me getting in the way of the business's growth. So part of my goal in the immediate is to find some sort of partner in that. And then big box stores, we have a couple big box stores that are interested in bringing in our line. One of them we should be hearing back from this week. So winning those accounts and then keeping those accounts. So yeah, our goals is growth, as all small businesses, all businesses. Yeah.
Okay. Are you continually expanding your product line as well? Kind of how do you do the product planning and
Yeah. We took a big break from developing products this year because we have so much inventory currently.
Mm.
Part of the becoming a better CEO is realizing that we're sitting on way too much inventory, which is easy to do because we have so many SKUs. And so when you have as many SKUs as we do, and a lot of them are large quantity orders because of the nature of what they are, like deodorant, that's a factory order. Playing cards is a factory order. These things just come in large quantities. So when you offer different colors or fragrances of them, you end up sitting on a lot of inventory. So we did not develop a lot of products this year in fear of just not taking on any more inventory. But going into next year, we're developing 3 new fragrances because of the reasons I shared earlier, which is it's just a great product. And when you win a customer, you can continue to win them. But also that the startup costs aren't a lot and the inventory is not that much, unless you buy into the deodorant. But like when, holding the colognes and holding the incense, those are actually things we do in-house. So we can keep our inventory cost really low, and then our margins are great. So it's just like a really great product for us. So to answer your question in a less long way, yes, we're growing our fragrance line next year. That's gonna be a big part of our focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, last question about your team. So tell me a little bit about your leadership style and how you mentioned you had to downsize a little bit, more of a right sizing to fit the actual financials and that. So how do
Yeah.
you lead your team especially when you're running lean? What are some of your tips there?
I think, well, you have the hiring process is very, very, very important. So the way that we do that is first it's word of mouth. We try to find someone within the network. We normally don't hire people for, which can be a mistake, but it hasn't been for us. But we normally don't hire people for their experience. We hire them for who they are and like their work ethic and that's worked really well for us. Especially since we don't have established positions because I'm figuring it out as a leader. So to answer your question, as a leader, I like my employees to be very autonomous. I like them to be able to work independently, to think creatively, through strategically themselves, but then also not have a problem with asking for help when they need it. Um, and that's not always the best style. That's just something I've really learned about myself is that I really, I really expect people to solve their own problems. And then, and I also try to lead by example, which is to be the first one to help when things are needed, or to put in the hours that are required, or to when things are hard to put on more. Like when things are financially hard, putting more on my load, or being the first to say, "Hey, I'm actually going to cut my inventory. I'm going to cut my check this month because we're going to do this and that," or whatever it is. And then as far as how do you make good hires, I think you just really have to first hit your network, see what it is that's out there. And then we do assessments, which we actually will use like a DISC assessment, which will help us understand where that person like lands personality wise, and if that's going to be a good fit for the team. Like for instance, one of our wholesale manager, she has like a very left leaning mind, and that was proven by her assessment. And so that was something that was really missing. We had a lot of creatives on our team. We didn't have people that really were organized or strict about things. And so she brought in a really great element of that. So I think just knowing what you need,
Okay.
long answer, but yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of you hire the right people, you can train them the skills if they're the right people.
Yeah.
So
There are times where I've done that for other businesses. I worked as a consultant, and actually ended kind of being one of the early founders for a tequila company. And we hired a salesperson for personality, and it was a terrible choice. Like there are certain positions that need that experience, that firsthand experience, like sales, especially sales and alcohol. It's like you have. It doesn't matter if they're a dickhead. If they're a great salesperson, like they'll be a great salesperson. Yeah.
right. Okay. Good. So we've covered a lot today. So now I've got kind of a last few questions to share some thoughts with our listeners. So, so what's your key to success, Tyler?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm successful, but I think what I'm striving for uh, in success is to be satisfied, to work hard, and to enjoy it. So satisfied and enjoying it, kind of the same thing, but just enjoying it. You know, I don't know if you've listened, Mark, to the podcast How I Built This, but it's a really great podcast on entrepreneurship, and it's like so many of the people that have had success and they've sold their companies for many millions, they kind of, you know, look back at the struggle years and they kind of miss them with some sort of kind of romantic view of like, hey, that's when I was really alive. That's when I was really doing it. And this selling it and sitting on $100 million is not really doing it for me. They try to get themselves back into another chaotic business or something. Um, and so just having the perspective of like, hey, this is great where we're at now, being thankful for what we have now, and enjoying the moments we have.
Okay, awesome. So what's one piece of advice you would give to other business owners?
I would say, um, don't make good products, make things that are good for the world, make good things that are good for your community, treat your team well. Don't focus on only profit, although profit is really important. Success is important. Keeping business healthy is important, but um, create something that's good for goodness sake. And I think that is just something that's my advice to a fellow entrepreneur or business owners, because I think that's really a key to having like a good society and good community. Is just people that run honest businesses, treat their employees well, pay them well, and create just kind of like a cycle of, you know, good.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so what's one book that you're reading or listening to that you would recommend to other business owners in addition to the podcast that you already mentioned?
Yeah, so I definitely do the podcast, How I Built This. It's really great. I listen to it a couple of times a week. It really gives me a lot of inspiration and perspective. And then I don't have a business like self-help book or anything like that that I would suggest, but I did just listen, ironically, to um, a book called Endurance, and it's actually it's a true story, or the writing of a true story of Shackleton's journey, the post Antarctic um, expedition he did in 1914. And it's just an incredible story of like human will. Because honestly, the early on explorers were really entrepreneurs. They had to kind of fund their expeditions through um, investors, and there was a business plan. You know, they would write books after it, and that's what they would use to kind of fund themselves. And it's an incredible story of a group of men who have to endure just incredible difficulties, and they persevere. And it's just a great testament of the human spirit and our ability to persevere when things are hard. And it was really comforting to me during the last 6 months as I've been going through some transitions in the business, and emotionally been really it's been hard, and it's just showing that like you can get through, that you can push through these walls, and there's more there. There's more in your tank than you realize. You can keep on pushing.
Okay, awesome. I like that. Thank you. So, second and last question. So, if you had to choose one area of your business to improve tomorrow, what would it be?
100% our marketing and e-commerce. Yeah, that's
Okay.
just yeah. There's just so much left on the table there.
Okay. So, great. So before I ask my last question, so how can others learn about your company, your product line, where they can find your products? What's the best way for them to learn more and to source your products?
Yeah, so the best way is to visit our online shop, and that's the name of the company is Miscellaneous Goods Company. MISC period is how we do it to abbreviate it. But if you just Google that, you'll find us, no problem. We do sell to other online retailers like Huckberry, but you know, for us, it's best just to go directly to our website. And then we're in over 300 little small boutiques all across the US. So if you're popping your head in your favorite little store, keep an eye out for us. We might be there.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So last question I have for you today is what inspires you the most right now?
Mm. What inspires me the most right now is it's unusual for me to say this, but it's definitely money. That has never been the case um, for me, but it's what I'm most motivated right now. But it's not out of like a particular greed or need to prove anything. It's more out of creating security for myself, my family, and my team. And and so that really motivates me, right? That's going shifting to that CEO mindset. Those are the things that I wake up and I think, okay, how are we going to do? How are we going to turn this into more money? And I think it's great because it's balanced with 13 years of never thinking about money and caring about money and just trying to create a really cool business. And now there's just a second age of the business where now, like, okay, we did that first thing and we've created a really authentic brand, really authentic set of products. And now we need to focus on creating sustainability and like security for the team. So um that's what motivates me right now is like how can we well not making any compromises to what we believe in, like how do we find more money?
Okay. So how do we turn this business into a lasting entity that supports you, your family, your community, your team, and still great products that
Yeah,
support your mission and your vision for the world?
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Listeners, this has been Tyler Deeb, the owner of Miscellaneous Goods Company, and he's shared a lot about his journey. He's the creative that became an entrepreneur by accident that now is, a CEO of a company, and he has, matured along the way as the business has matured, and just a lot of great lessons in here. I recommend you to bookmark this, watch it a couple times. A lot of little nuggets to pick out. Tyler, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to think about these things. I appreciate it.
All right, great. So that's all for this session, and be sure to bookmark us so that you and like us so that you see all the upcoming interviews. So have a great day, and thanks for listening. Bye.